Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again, TGIF. Boy, this has been a crazy week, huh, with the holidays and everything. Thank you for all the well wishes for the holiday. Really appreciate it. And today I wanted to talk about a few different things. You know, my phone, the battery's starting to go, and you know what's amazing about these things? You know, these phones, it bothers me. You know, I'm not a big fan of battery operated anything because you know batteries eventually will go. You know, no matter 4 or 5 years, all of a sudden it stops. And, you know, I'll tell you something with these iPhones. Call me a conspiracy theory nut, but I do believe that sometimes with these updates, all of a sudden you get an update and a month later, your phone just doesn't work anymore. You know, it's like after they issue 3 new models, if you didn't upgrade and get a new model after 3 models, your model will stop working or you won't be able to do anything. I don't know. It's planned obsolescence at its best. Okay, next up, I found something pretty interesting in the back of my garage. Let me show it to you. And here it is. Now, I don't usually go behind my garage, but there's a lot of, it faces south and it gets a lot of sun back there. But I happened to go back there the other day. I was looking for something and I saw this. There's a tree that grows back there and and I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I'm a city guy, but I think this is a hummingbird nest. And, you know, hummingbirds, what's interesting about them is, you know, they're small and they make a hum when they fly. And, you know, I think this has been there for a while because I don't know. So I cut it down. I've been very gentle with it. But I believe, because if you listen, I think you can hear the hummingbirds in there because I do hear, here, I'll put it near the camera. Do you hear that? That's pretty cool, huh? I think there's still hummingbirds. And so I got a bowl of sugar water over there, and I'm hoping that I can maybe get 1 or 2 of the hummingbirds, and maybe I got a parakeet cage upstairs. I'll keep them till the spring or whatever, you know. But, you know, it is a big nest. You know, I don't know how many hummingbirds are in there, and it's, you know, I've been looking in it trying to see if any come out, but I don't even know how they would get in there. I kind of... See, you can hear it's getting a little, you can hear it, it's getting a little more noisy. Yeah, maybe it'll come out if I, oh, wait a minute. There's something. That's not a hummingbird. Okay. That was a lot of fun, huh? Believe me, I'm not that much of a city boy that I wouldn't know. That was a hornet's nest, by the way. And that was actually given to my girlfriend from her brother who lives in Virginia. He has a big farm down there, and he sent it to her. And, you know, I'm going to be keeping it because I love that kind of stuff. And she gets a little, you know, squeamish over bugs, and I think it's the coolest thing ever, isn't it? I mean, to be able to make a nest like that out of just the pulp from bark and stuff. And hornets are bad news. If you don't know what a hornet is like a wasp on steroids, you know, and also a little bit more nasty. And, you know, where wasps tend to eat fruit and nectar and things like that and sweet stuff. And hornets will actually, you know, they're insects. So, you know, they're pretty bad. But you don't want to mess with a hornet. Remember the green hornet when we were kids? Anyway, next up, I want to talk a little bit about the Machinist bench block, which you might find interesting. Now, a couple of our viewers, one being Charles Plummer and another one being Andy, had asked me when we did the last video, they were saying that when we punched the pin out, they saw this round block. They said, what is that, you know? And a lot of people aren't familiar with this typical item here that machinists mostly have them. Also jewelry makers, things like that. This is what's called a bench block. Or and you can see, and it does serve a purpose for a few different uses, but this is one of those tools that if you don't keep in your bag of tricks, you know, in the back of your mind, that you kind of forget about it unless you have to punch something out or whatever. Let me show you a couple uses and what it is. It's basically all it is. It's a piece of steel that's ground on the top, ground on the bottom. They hollow out a little section in here, and then they drill some holes and put usually a V section in the middle. And let me show you what each one of these actually do. Now, one common use with the bench block is if you wanted to use it as a kind of a drill or a tap guide. Now, a lot of the bench blocks will have different common size holes in here. Here you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 holes, plus the center one, 8, that are drilled in here. And you could see they're different sizes for a reason. Now, if you want to use it as a drill guide, you could take a drill and you could drill it through here if you had a hand drill or something. And that would help you drill the hole straight and perpendicular to the surface. Whereas if you were drilling it by hand, you would have to eyeball it. This is a kind of a way to guide it in. You could see it'll come straight through that hole and give you a straight hole. And then if you had to tap it, you can use the hole for the same thing. You could see by putting that tap into that hole and positioning it over, you can actually start your tap nice and straight and true. Now, another common use is to use this little V block here that's built into the bench block. Now, if I wanted to, let's say, drill into some round stock or something, all I do is I take the bench block, put it onto the drill press or whatever, and then I would bring the drill down and seat it into the middle here. You could see until it's seated right in the middle of that V. You could see? And when that's seated there like that, all I have to do is when I take my round stock, place it into the V channel, and then when I go to drill, that's going to be directly in the center there. Easy, you know, 1, 2, 3 setup. So that's one aspect. You would clamp this down, and now I could drill and start it into a round stock. Now, probably the most common use for these type of bench blocks is that if you had a pin that had to be driven out, if you had a piece of flat stock and let's say there was a pin in here, you would place it over the hole that was closest, just a little larger than the pin, and you would place it over here and then take your punch and punch out the pin this way through the hole in the bottom of the bench block. Another one you could use is if you had a pin, especially in a round stock. You could, you know, that's why that big hole's in the middle here. You would place the round stock here, and then you could use the punch here and punch out the pin through that stock. So that's basically what they're used for. I'm sure there's other uses, wire bending, things like that. Like I said, jewelry people use them all the time, and but this is one of those things that you don't use often, but they do come in handy when you do need them, especially for the, you know, punching pins out of round stock and stuff. You know who uses these a lot? Gunsmiths. So anyway, something to keep in your, you know, bag of tricks or something. They run about $22 for a good quality import, which this is. Or you can get a nice Starrett one for about $120. Now, you can make a bench block out of anything. You can make it out of wood. You can make it out of plastic. Plastic's very good because it's non-marring. And, of course, you can make it out of our favorite little toy here, a little hockey puck. So let's make one real quick and show you how easy it is to make one. So we'll do it on the lathe and get it fired. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we put the hockey puck into the lathe, and we have the outside jaws so it can grip the outside of the puck. And the only reason we're doing this is that we can get a center hole exactly in the center. It really doesn't have to be exactly in the center, but it you know, it's good practice if you want to have it that way. Now what we'll do is we'll just tighten the chuck up, turn it on, and put a spot drill in here. You can see how easy that was now because it's, again, it's so simple to do when you do it on lathe. Now we have a perfectly centered hole in this hockey puck, and we could drill it out on the mill when we do the V channel. Okay, we have it centered here. Here's the setup. We're in the milling machine here, and we just centered the drill right over that hole. Again, it doesn't have to be, you know, directly in the middle, but now we're going to drill through all the way through with, you know, I guess about 3/8 of an inch bit. Okay, next what we did is we replaced the drill chuck with a collet and nothing more than a countersink bit, and that'll give us the V channel in here. And we're just going to run it back and forth a couple times to get to the desired depth. This is rubber and it is cutting beautifully. So we'll start off here. Not a big cut here, just to see how it behaves. And I would rather run it sideways, but for the camera, I'm going to run it back and forth, and you'll get an idea what it looks like. And here we have today's project out of a dollar hockey puck. A nice bench block. Now you see the V cut here we can use for the round stock. This is non-marring, which means it will not damage any of your metal, especially if you polished it out or something. And if you want to punch any pins, you could use this side. Now, if there was another pin that you needed to use or something in a bigger or smaller hole, you can always use this flat area here to drill it out. But I just like this. Just like this is going to handle 90% of what I need to do. So really good project. If you get a chance, maybe you should think about doing that. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have a nice weekend. Take care now. Bye-bye.